me as this kind of guy, terrified of what's coming in 2012. Now, of course, television does that. It wants to draw very sharp lines and distinctions, and to basically limb out, for me, for my role as the producer saw it, I was the doom and gloom guy. I was the guy that was telling everybody the Earth is going to catastrophically end. Well, what I did, of course, was to describe how it might end, and then the fact that in terms of the science, in terms of the physics, I was trying to figure out if it was going to end. But, of course, that little nuance in a increasingly non-nuanced politics in our society got kind of lost. On the other hand, John Major Jenkins was portrayed as the flowers and everything is beautiful guy. And his work, which of course began with this book, Maya Cosmogenesis 2012, whereby John actually was the first, as far as I can tell, to figure out that the reason the Maya synchronize their calendar, the Baktun cycle, to end when it does, is in fact, indeed, there is this major astronomical alignment with the center of the galaxy in December 21, 2012. And yes, it does occur every year for the last several thousand years because of the rate of where things in the heavens move very slowly. But in fact, the date of 2012 may be a unique winter solstice, as you will see, which means that John is essentially correct. Now, if he is correct, his conclusions are a little, shall we say, premature, because I believe, unlike the portrayal here, where he says everything is going to be transformative and we enter this whole new era of expanded consciousness and, you know, cats and dogs living together, loving each other. Well, this guy is looking for what's really going to happen. And as part of what's really going to happen, what has struck me is this extraordinary absolute fact, which is on December 21, 2012, the solar system lines up with this extraordinary city of which we are a part, the Milky Way galaxy, which is over 100,000 light years across, has something like 400 billion stars. And when you look at it in visible light, it looks like this. If you look at it in infrared, as they recently did with some of NASA's extraordinarily sophisticated new technology in orbit, it looks like this. And that bright thing right in the center, called Sagittarius A, that is the literal center of the galaxy itself. It is an incredibly energetic place. There's all kinds of extraordinary activity going on within a few light years of the center. And in the center, there is now estimates by various astronomers based on various measurements, a 4 million solar mass black hole, ostensibly, according to the published papers, spinning once every 11 seconds. Now, something about that number when it came out went ding, 11 seconds, really, gentlemen? And December 21, 2012, we're aimed at that thing on 11:11 a.m. Are you guys going 11 happy here on us? Are you trying to tell us something between the lines? You never find the memos. You never find the connecting glue. You always have to make inferences based on a pattern that belies the concept of coincidence. And I believe that that pattern exists in very large measure here. Well, in my mind, if all of this collides, if all of this lines up, what does it mean in terms of the physics for all 6+ billion living down there on that planet? Is it possible that something really bad could in fact happen on December 21, 2012? That was the background to my quest that led me to various places, including this recent 2-hour special, where Rebecca, who was the producer, kind of slanted my quest as a conclusion. Because television obviously always wants dichotomy and conclusions and black and white and very clear, and that's why we have, you know, the left and the right, Republicans and Dems, and in fact reality is a blur. It's a Gaussian-shaped curve, a bell curve, where most of us are kind of in the middle, and you got these outliers on both edges. Well, we don't live in a middle society. We live where things are supposed to be highly polarized for drama, for ratings, for money, for sponsors, and truth obviously gets lost along the way. So I'm looking at this through this set of eyes. I've spent now 20, 30 years looking at this extraordinary physics, this physics bequeathed to us from a long, long time ago. And I've seen how it now operates. I've been able to measure its operation in various venues, as you're going to see. I know that hyperdimensional / torsion field physics is a real science. And one of the predictors of the science is that mass and inertia are not unchanging. They're not immutable. They're not constant. This, of course, completely obviates all of Newton, all of Einstein, and freaks out all of the mainstream physicists because in their world, a mass is a mass is a mass, and it never changes unless you accelerate it up near the speed of light. Well, I have news for those guys. That is not what reality is telling us. And the measurements we did totally confirm our view of this physics, which raises the problem that because these three laws of hyperdimensional physics, paraphrasing the three laws of real estate, rotation, 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 we live on a rotating place. Rotation is intrinsic to the planet we were born on, to the entire cosmos we were born into. There's nothing that isn't rotating, moving around something else at some speed. So if you live in a universe of constant rotation, and there's all these interactions through the torsion field, which I can demonstrate, it is only prudent to then ask the question, in fact, could there be something really dramatic that would happen with the Earth's rotation around 2012, given the alignments, given the precipitating possibilities of an underlying physics that would cause such a change? And my old friend John White, who actually gave me my current entertainment attorney, that's how long that relationship has been in operation, wrote a book many, many years ago called Pole Shift, where he tabulated all of the ways where the world could go wink. And then what was really interesting, several years after this book, which by the way became a bestseller and was widely read all around the world, he was apparently approached by somebody and he wrote a sequel where he basically redacted and retracted everything he had said in this book. And I've never been able to talk to him since. I think somebody from high levels in government came to John and basically said, this has to come back. You have to walk this back. We must not get people too upset about what could be coming. Now, can I prove that? No. But I can prove it through a set of circumstantial trends, not the least of which is that John is not taking my phone calls these days, which is kind of weird. So, back to John Major Jenkins. Now, John says that when you look at the Mayan calendar and the Mayan mythology, there's nothing in the Mayan cosmology or mythology that bespeaks of disaster, of tribulation, of bad things happening. Well, that is spin. John is not being truthful with himself. Because, in fact, if you look at this Aztec version of the Mayan calendar, you, in fact, see that it has in the very center, because it is the sunstone, the history of the Aztecs themselves. And they talk very forthrightly about the derivative ages that have come and gone, where mankind has gone through various evolutionary phases, and each of these world ages, we're now in the fourth, about to enter the fifth on December 21, 2012, have unfortunately ended in disaster. And you can see it here, that the fourth world was destroyed by flood. Well, that has kind of interesting echoes of Noah, a whole bunch of other mythologies all around the world, from South America to the far southwest parts of the Pacific, to the Far East, to the Middle East. There are flood mythologies all over the world from cultures which we don't believe ever really got together. So How did they all come up with the same problem in their dim